Well, good morning. Welcome to 10 with Tom on this Tuesday morning. I'm glad to have you with us today. This morning we're looking at a devotional that I was able to read during my time last week. And I was so inspired by it, and I thought it was so thought-provoking that I wanted to share it with you today. It's written by a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Alorza, and it's titled, "A Life's Work Should Be Meaningful." So as we start it today, I'm going to share her words, and then we'll go from her experience from there. But she starts off by saying, "For a very long time, I chose the path of least resistance. It took a few missteps, but now I realize the importance of pursuing a career that is meaningful to me, not just easy. A path like that might be challenging, but it should have purpose, and it should make me feel good about getting up in the morning." She says that after she graduated from high school, she jumped into what she thought would be the quickest and easiest program at a local community college. She earned a degree in medical office administration. But she says that it wasn't long after she completed the program that she realized that she wasn't pursuing a profession that gave her joy or gave any meaning to her life. And so she had to admit to herself that she chose that simply because it was easy and because others had pushed her into it, not because that's really what she wanted to do. But she says that one day she was watching her 18-month-old nephew, and as she watched him move around and getting into stuff and leaving messes wherever he went, she said that it was amazing how he had moved through so many developmental stages in only 18 months. And as he turned and looked at her and smiled, she said that she realized right then and there that working with children was really what she wanted to do, and that it would give her so much joy. So she decided right then and there that she wanted to work with children, and she got a job working as a preschool teacher. That job convinced her that she needed to go back to school to become an elementary school teacher. But she knew that was going to take time, and she was going to have to work during the process, so she was able to work as an aide at a local high school while she completed her education to be a teacher. And as she shares at the end of the devotion, it took her many years to find her chosen job. But she has finally found a career that brings meaning to her life. And it provides encouragement to other people as well. And then she closes with this: "We just have one life to live. So while it is important to be productive, it is critical to pursue a career that brings personal satisfaction." Then she shares this verse from Psalm 138. "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Lord, your faithful love endures forever. Do not abandon the work of your hands." You know, God doesn't abandon his handiwork, and his handiwork is us. He knows what we were meant to do. He knows what we can do best. He knows what can give us the most joy and the most personal satisfaction in our lives. And first off, that's living for him. But we can all live for him in so many different ways. You know, I learned that I like to do things the easy way. When I was in school, I loved sports. I loved watching sports, learning about sports, broadcasting sports, writing about sports. And because English was something I enjoyed, I did well in communications classes and in English classes. When I was given a writing assignment, it was always something to do about sports. When I had to give a speech, it was always something about sports. And my major was sports communications, a pretty easy path for me because I love sports. But I had a professor in college who was always very encouraging to me, very helpful along my path. But one time he gave an assignment in class, and he said, "Now, for this assignment, I want you to write about whatever you want to write about." And then when the class ended, he called me to his desk, and he said, "That's everyone except for you. I will not accept anything that you write that is about sports. It can be about anything else, but it can't be about sports." And for a moment, I didn't like that at all. I kind of resented it. Why was he picking on me? But he knew that I needed to branch out. He knew that there was more in life for me than just sports. And so he pushed me in a new direction. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what I wrote about. And I know I didn't get the grade that I usually got when I wrote about sports. But it caused me to think about going other places. When I graduated from college, I didn't find the job in sports that I had always wanted. I didn't find the job in radio. I did find a part-time job in newspaper, but I was doing other jobs at the same time. And so it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. The easy path was not leading to what I wanted. But God had other ideas for me. And God began to steer my life toward youth ministry. Something that I absolutely love. Something that I have a passion about. Something that gets me excited every day about what new does God have for me today. And I didn't have that in sports. Sure, I still watch sports. I still like sports. But I have a purpose now. And it's a purpose not just for me, but hopefully for the people that I talk to. People like you. That I can share God's love with, share God's word with. And I hope that you'll also pursue something that you're going to be passionate about and it's going to bring satisfaction to you. Don't go the easy way. God's way is usually not the easiest path, all right? But it's always the best one for us. And so I'd encourage you to move forward in pursuing the path that God has for you. Now, Elizabeth gave us a few tips at the end of her devotional about some ways that we can help live this out. And I thought they were very, very helpful. Number one, she says to begin thinking about what kind of work would be meaningful to you. And then start thinking 10 years in advance. Now, if you're 12 or 13, that's like almost a new lifetime away. That's a long ways off. As we get older, those 10-year gaps don't seem quite so much. But even at me being almost 60, 10 years still seems like it's so far away. All right? But I'm starting to think in terms of where do I want to be in 10 years? All right, what do I want to be doing in 10 years? And so begin to think, where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you see yourself doing? All right? Second thing, email a mentor, somebody who's important in your life, to thank them for nudging you down the right path. I had a chance to go back to that professor years after I had gotten in youth ministry. I was driving by the campus, and so I stopped in to see if he was still there, and he just stopped what he was doing, and we talked for about an hour. But when he found out what I was doing, he said, you know, I'm not the least bit surprised. He said, you are really good at what you did with sports. But he said, your passion was in following God. He said, I recognized that from a long time. I had no idea where that was going to take you, but I knew it was bigger than sports. And so he said, not only am I not surprised by what you're doing, but I'm very glad you're doing what you're doing because you're living out with passion. And I so appreciated that from him. The next thing, if you're confused about your future, and let's face it, a lot of us are, think of 5 key words that describe you, and then try to begin to tie those key words into careers. All right? So those can help steer us where we want to go, and we think of 5 words that describe us. All right, another thing, consider meeting with a counselor or a trusted advisor or a neighbor parent who has a certain kind of job, somebody who might ask you questions about what your passions are. What are your values? What are the talents that you see yourself having? And maybe together they can begin to help you discover a path that you can take that you might not have otherwise considered. All right? I never would have thought about getting into ministry, but I found out later on that there were people who were pushing me that way, even though they weren't being real forceful about it, but they would say things that would direct me that direction. And then finally, think about this question. What work do you find yourself doing automatically? For example, if you naturally start thinking of ways to reorganize people's apartments, perhaps you would enjoy being an interior designer. Find those things that you enjoy doing that you do naturally. It's so many times those are the things that lead us where we want to go. And so, a lot to think about, but I know God has a future for all of us. And so I encourage you to follow yours, to follow God's dream for you, and see what happens. Tomorrow night, I want to mention Pastor Clint will be leading our Wednesday night refresh. I'll be speaking Sunday night at youth group. I'll be doing a little bit of follow-up on what Will talked about this past Sunday night. So a lot of stuff going on Friday night. Watch parties continue. We're having a great time growing together at the Village Church and with our friends from Reverb Church. And so hope to see you guys soon. I love you. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of the week. See you next Tuesday on 10 with Tom.